Morning. We will now call to order.
Recording in
Oh,
progress.
sorry. Good morning. We will call to order today's Douglas County Board of Commissioners meeting. For a copy for the public, there's a copy of the Open Meetings Act on the north wall of the legislative chambers, and in the back there's an automatic defibrillator. With that, I'd like to ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will start by opening the Board of Equalization meeting. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Borgeson is absent. Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Kavanaugh. Commissioner Friend.
Here.
Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Morgan.
Here.
Mr. Chair.
Here. Item A is the approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, April 25th. And item B is to call for a meeting to set Tuesday, May 9th as the date for hearing on the certified assessments and corrections reflected from the additions of omitted properties on the tax rolls. Is there a motion and a second to approve items A and B?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Friend. Seeing no questions, please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Item C is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on Board of Equalization related items not listed on the agenda. Are there any citizens' comments at this time? Seeing none, we have resolutions D, E, and F, and no need for executive session. I entertain a motion to approve D, E, and F, and a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Morgan, second by Commissioner Friend. Seeing no questions, please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
We will now call to order the Douglas County Board of Commissioners meeting. Roll call.
Commissioner Borgeson is absent. Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Kavanaugh. Commissioner Friend.
Here.
Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Morgan.
Present.
Mr. Chair.
Here. Item 1, minutes and claims. Letter A is the approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. Item B, approval of claims submitted for payment and processed through Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. What's the will of the board?
So moved. Second.
Motion to second. Motion by Commissioner Morgan, second by Commissioner Friend to approve items A and B. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Item 2 is the consent agenda. There are 8 items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve items A through H? Motion by Commissioner Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Friend. Seeing no comments, please vote. Commissioner Kavanaugh.
On item H, I just have a couple of questions for the record, if the county attorney could maybe flesh this out. Item H is a resolution to authorize the chairperson of the Board of Commissioners to execute a quitclaim deed conveying Douglas County's apparent interest in the specified real property to the OMLB, which I believe is a land bank. This is for a parcel, according to the backup document resolution, Lot 1 in the north 1/2 of Lot 2, Block D, in Saunders and Himmenbaugh, addition to the city of Omaha as surveyed. And just so the public knows, I mean, we're taking action on a piece of property here. Could you walk us through exactly what's happening here?
Can you hear me, Commissioner? I apologize. Oh,
You good?
I'll try this mic. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Teresa, York County Attorney's Office. So I'll try. So this land was conveyed in a prior proceeding. It is involved the Omaha Land Bank. Through error, there was, the conveyance looks as if Douglas County retains an interest in that property, but we do not. So this quitclaim deed is corrective in nature, so that we can go ahead and get rid of that appearance that we have an interest in the property.
I see. Thank you.
Okay. There is a motion second. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. We'll move to item 3, recognition and proclamations. Item A is a resolution recognizing National Peace Officer Memorial Week and Peace Officer Memorial Day. I'll read that into the record and then ask for motion of approval. Whereas October 1, 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a congressional bill proclaiming May 15th as National Memorial Day for all law enforcement officers who were slain in the line of duty. And whereas police officers, deputy sheriffs, state troopers, corrections officers, and federal officers come together to form a large honor guard that recognizes the ultimate sacrifice paid by fallen comrades, and whereas the protection of life and property within Douglas County is entrusted to the constant efforts of the men and women who serve in law enforcement. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners in Douglas County, Nebraska, that the board does hereby proclaim May 14th through 20th of 2023 Peace Officer Memorial Week and Monday, May 15th, 2023 is Peace Officer Memorial Day in Douglas County, and respectively invite the attention of all residents to the observance, keeping in mind the sacrifices made in the line of duty by members of law enforcement while protecting life and property in our county. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Boyle, second by Commissioner Friend. Is there anybody on Zoom or here? I don't see. Okay. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Item 5, citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on Board of Commissioner-related items that are not on the agenda. Are there any citizens' comments at this time?
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. You're not specifically listed in the report section on legislative issues. It's not really printed, so I'm going to bring it up now.
Larry's legislative issues, I'll ask you to bring.
There is nothing specific on your agenda
It is.
listed.
It is.
What I'm saying is the topic that I am on is
Okay.
not on there, okay?
Fair.
You probably won't talk about it on during that report, so I'm gonna bring it up now. But there's a big hullabaloo down in the State House. And I know you people lobby for us sometimes, but mostly against us down there, and you have more power than we do. There's a lot of very angry people over what happened last week and may come up today in regards to the abortion bill. I would hope that the person that was attending and not voting is pulling a parliamentary trick to resurface the issue and to remove by amendments everything except abortions in case of rape, incest, and the life of the mother. Anything other than that probably amounts to murder. And as a Christian nation, we cannot condone that, and it's not in our Constitution. In fact, it's unconstitutional because even up to 6 weeks, that is a life that is being taken. And I think we all need to stand up against that and say, let's don't rewrite the Constitution. They do not have the power to do that. Thank you.
Any other citizens' comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, presentations. Item A is discussion outlining developing shortage in parking for the Douglas County Sheriff employees assigned to Douglas County Hall of Justice. Speaking. All right.
Members of the County Board, thank you for placing me on the agenda, especially given it was a late agenda item. I do appreciate your flexibility. My name is Sheriff Aaron Hansen, from Douglas County Sheriff's Office. And with me today will be a few speakers who will fill you in on more details of the topic that we are going to discuss regarding the growing challenges that we are facing with parking.
Sorry, Sheriff. Those on Zoom, please mute yourself.
Are we good? Okay, great, thank you. Speaking after me will be Court Services Bureau Captain Peterson, and he will give a rundown of the history of the parking schemes for the staff of the Sheriff's Office that provide security for the Douglas County Courthouse and City County Building. Following Captain Peterson will be Chief Deputy of Operations Nemok, and he will give a rundown of the operational realities that my staff is dealing with. You know, ultimately, I think I just read an article this morning that the downtown Omaha is looking at, I think it's $3.2 billion worth of development over the next 15 years. A lot of these discussions ring familiar in my ears, especially when we talk about the discussions over the streetcar project and how much of that is focused on parking pressures. I do believe that this is an issue that we are going to have to find a plan on, especially for my staff that is directly responsible for the safety of everybody in this complex. I'm going to pass it over to Captain Peterson.
Morning, Commissioners. Christopher Peterson, Captain, Douglas County Sheriff's Office. I'll give you just a brief historical view of parking for Douglas County Sheriff's Office employees. So up until about 2001 or so, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office title inspection was located down at 18th and Jackson Street. We had approximately, from memory, about 10 parking spots for Sheriff's Office employees to park at. Around that time frame, and I might be off a year or two, but it was deemed that the title inspection simply did not meet the needs of Douglas County for title inspection purposes. Douglas County simply outgrew that title inspection. So it was deemed at that point to move the title inspection, build a building. It's about 83rd, 84th Street and Cass Street where the current title inspection resides. The old location at 18th and Jackson Street was demolished, and eventually a parking lot was installed there. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office employees that did park there, they were allowed to park on the west side of Douglas County Corrections along 18th Street there at that parking lot. For several years, no issues with having the employees of the Sheriff's Office park there. On occasion, because corrections would have a mass hiring or construction, then parking became an issue for a couple weeks at a time, maybe a month at the most, and then the Sheriff's Office employees had to find parking elsewhere temporarily. Currently, about for the past month, maybe a month and a half, the issue has just kind of exploded for us. With corrections being 100% staffed, which is obviously a record for them over the last 20 plus years, they have taken the majority of all these parking spots. In addition, there's also other state employee parking or state employee parkers that are parking there. I think the other day I counted 2 state vehicles parking there, and then other county vehicles for employees that are parking at the Douglas County Criminal Justice Center at 17th and Jackson are also parking there. I believe they are also fully staffed from what I've been told. So in the interim, what the problem is that parking lot the number of parkers needing to park there has exceeded the number of spots that parking spot has. So that leaves the sheriff's office employees, deputies, ESO, law enforcement techs to find parking elsewhere. They'll park around the courthouse at metered parking, other private lots and so forth. The most convenient for us, for the deputies and the ESOs, are at the 1910 Harney parking garage. Even with the Douglas County Corrections staff, their correctional officers, recruits that are going to be graduating, I believe, June 11th, that will ease a little bit of the parking once some of their correctional officers are assigned to different shifts, but that will not solve this issue because they are at full staff and they are going to take most of these parking spots. Are there any questions for what I've covered?
Let your other presentation come, and then I'll open it up for questions.
I'm sorry?
Let the other presenter come, and then
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
open it.
yep. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I'm Will Niemock, Chief Deputy of Operations for the Sheriff's Office. And I'll speak real briefly on the topic. I think it's been covered pretty well, but just to let you know numerically, our need as it stands today for our sworn personnel for courthouse, that's deputies working district court, county court, juvenile court, is standing at 38. That's deputies and the civilian staff that work in that capacity. The near future of that could grow to as many as 42, depending on the growth of the courts over the course of the next few years. And so if we're hovering around a numerical need of 40, what that west lot of corrections has presented over time, like Captain Peterson stated, the corrections has never been this close or at 100% in my 24-year history here. And I anticipate that they're going to maintain that or near that staffing level. They have plans for August or sometime in the fall recruit class as well, depending on their retention levels and such, is to basically pronounce this issue prior to it becoming, further ingrained and down the road. In that way that you're aware of the needs overall. And prior to becoming chief, I was assigned as captain of the Sports Services Bureau of the Sheriff's Office, which is located on the corner of Corrections at 16th and Leavenworth. And so I'm immediately familiar with the parking concerns that existed prior to them becoming 100% staffed, and that it was parking there on that corrections campus is stressed already. With courts going on over there, with the sheriff's office business at the sports services, and then with naturally corrections and the staffing that they have, the parking on the street and the parking off the street are both strained to that point. And so wanted to basically present this information knowing that we want to present our staff members with adequate parking so that they're not paying out of pocket for parking, or that the sheriff's office isn't encumbered with costs to reimburse that expense as well. So.
Questions?
Thanks, Chief. And thanks, Sheriff Hansen, for this update. Is there a specific request of a specific geographic footprint that you would like to have parking reserved for sheriff deputies in the greater downtown area?
Well, on that solution side, I guess there's multiple options in looking at the needs, like I say, for the sworn and also for the entrance security officers. The needs would, given that parking is tight, everything costs money, would result in either leasing space adequate enough to basically satisfy corrections need on their campus, satisfy the sheriff's office need off the campus. And that would present just a matter of cost and options from the 1910 garage to existing street level parking elsewhere. So that level of study has not been drilled down to or determined as of yet.
And I understand this is tied into a bigger issue of enhanced staffing to provide security for the expanded campus that we're going to have here pretty quick. And I just want to say, I'm totally in support of the idea that the sheriff needs to have adequate resources to provide security for this government center. And it's going to be much larger pretty soon, so that's going to require more security. And so whatever you need, I'm certainly on record saying I support your request for enhanced security for this enhanced campus. And with that comes, people have to park someplace. They're coming to work down here. That makes total sense. I would maybe look at a comprehensive strategic plan for this component of our government center here, and that includes, this building, the Hall of Justice, the new Justice Center, kids jail, corrections, the whole thing, which will, I think, help us solve the problem that you point out. I think it's a real problem, and we have to come up with a real solution. We have, and I think Senator Garcia is the chairman of the Administrative Service Committee that's got overall responsibility for our property holdings, and that could be possibly a forum for this strategic plan, because you got a personnel question and a parking space question, but you also have, like, I don't know if you've got all of the assembly areas that you're going to need in the new campus secured so far, and you need to have that. My concern is that we're going to do this piecemeal and not give you the tools that you need to provide first-rate security for this government center campus, and that's not what we should do. We should give you the tools to do your job, and I'm fully in support of making that happen. So maybe going forward, we could engage in that, and we should probably do that sooner rather than later, because this is about to happen across the street. And what you're pointing out, I think, is just a part of a larger need of the Sheriff's Department, which is charged by law providing security for this government center, to give you the tools that you need. I'm on board to do that, and I think we should get together and plan that together and make it happen as soon as possible. So thanks for this update, and thank you, Sheriff Hansen, for bringing this to our attention. Appreciate it.
I thank each of you for just listening to the concerns, and we will work on that comprehensively for sure.
Commissioner Friend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Say, Chief, so more adding to what Commissioner Kavanaugh was asking about, maybe I'm a little, no, not maybe, I'm a little thick on the uptake probably. So 38, we need, of the 38, how many slots are we short then? I mean, or is that hard to say right now?
It varies by the day. There's consistently around 10 open spots, I think, on that west side of corrections. And as Captain Peterson had pointed out, their academy will end June 11th. And so that should alleviate us and add to some additional spots being available. Because all of those people are working basically like a day shift right now, and some of them will be displaced to like an afternoon or evening shift later. But looming in the fall is yet another academy that they're planning.
Right. So based on the circumstances, the granular nature of this discussion could, by my calculations, it could be on any given morning or afternoon. It could be anywhere from 10 to 20 slots, right? That you're short.
Yes.
And people are out plugging meters and doing whatever they have to do to get to work.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's it.
Commissioner Morgan.
What exactly are you suggesting that we maybe try to do? Is there an alternative of a property
Well,
that we should be looking to lease from or possibly even purchase in the area?
As the sheriff mentioned, parking is a constant conversation downtown. And so we realize that this is one small part, but I guess from my perspective, I would first suggest looking at what county spaces we have available at our disposal, and what cost or what availability they would have. And in that, if the easiest, most cost-effective nature is, as an example, the top level of the 1910 parking garage to be reserved for courthouse staff, then those spaces available, I believe there's 69 or 70 spaces on that top level. So we're not displacing, those spaces are not currently rented, and we're not displacing anyone to basically afford that parking. But then in terms of the secure nature of that parking garage, what that would afford the sheriff's office staff is one thing that we don't have on the west side of corrections, not only in space, but also it's a day-to-day concern, because inmates from corrections can look literally out the window and see the cars, the vehicles that the deputies drive day to day, and these are their personally owned vehicles. And so that presents to me a concern on the officer safety level, because of just the varying, threats that exist from that. But the 1910 parking garage, I think, would be would present an option to offset that cost to where we're not leasing, private spaces elsewhere, and we're not incurring, more cost there. So that would be a conversation, I think, that is where I would start, based on, again, the space being available, the cost being negotiable. We're basically, working within that PVC construct of county city. And so I think that would be the easiest solution on day one.
Okay. And I want to thank Sheriff Hansen for bringing this to our attention. The other thing is, I don't think we want to have the parking several blocks away either, or
Well,
relocating some other people.
Right.
And I'm one commissioner, but this ties in a little bit to what I've said. If we're to build on that site, and I kind of got the cost estimates, there isn't anything about parking, and I really do know, because I watched that facility and go there. The parking is really tight. I don't care if it's 6:30 in the morning, because it's a 24-hour service, and
That's
see
correct.
a gentleman from the sheriff's department in the back shaking his head yes. I mean, if we start to build there, we're going to have even more of a parking problem, and somebody can correct me, but this is a serious concern, so appreciate that.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to bring it forward to your attention, just for those incremental stages that campus is going to be, staring at in the near future. And I know.
And I don't know if Jerry Leahy or Jeff's been a little bit involved, but we can talk about that. I also want to take a moment just to say, it's not my district, but I happen to be on the email that the citizens sent. I want to thank the sheriff for what he's been doing on the homeless situation at 77th and Cass, as far as safety and some of the incidents that have almost occurred there with somebody confronting a woman and so on, for an outstanding job that you've been doing there. And I know you spent a lot of time there. So thank you, Sheriff, and your people for what you've done.
Good. Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Sure, no.
I was
sure.
going to conclude, I
You actually,
apologize.
Two things. First of all, nice beard. Looks sharp.
No, it's, still got to,
The
thank you for pointing
idea
that out.
that we talked
Some way to
about
go.
a moment ago in terms of kind of taking a holistic view. I know because of your communications, and I want to commend you on your open and active communications with the board, that this is part of a bigger kind of a responsibility that your office has for security on this campus. And if we're going to have an enhanced campus, we need enhanced security. We need more officers. Those officers need places to park and assemble, and all of those things are interrelated. And as I mentioned to the chief, it would be good if we could take this holistically rather than take a bite at a time, so that we could come to a reasonable solution that covers all of these questions. And I know you've been thinking about this because we've had conversations along these lines, but is there a possibility that we could bring this all together so that we could deal with all of those things in one kind of security plan? My big concern is you can't pick up the paper, you can't look at the news any day without an active shooter incident somewhere in our country. And you don't have to be, a prophet to see that that could be a real danger here at this place, and the justice centers attached to this place, and the correction centers attached to this place. So providing adequate security, which is your statutory responsibility, is something I want to give you all the tools you need to do. And I know that you brought forth different components of what we're talking about today, but is there a possibility that we could do this in kind of a comprehensive, strategic way so that it gets all taken care of?
Well, I think that's why we wanted to start the discussion. We didn't want to come to the table with a solution because we don't know what the solution is yet. All we know is that today, our staff, if they choose not to, that they don't have to pay for parking. And that's been the history. And unfortunately, that option is dwindling for our staff. And keep in mind, our staff walks in uniform primarily, whether they're an ESO, an entrance security officer, or a deputy. And so they have to sometimes walk many blocks in full uniform, and usually by themselves, which is fine. They're police professionals. They're used to that. But the chances of engagement between point A and point B could be high, especially based on some of the clientele that we interact with down here. And I think what's interesting to note is that in my previous career with the city of Omaha, when the Omaha Police Department realized that they didn't have enough parking spots outside of 505 South 15th Street, they solved it very quickly. They just assigned all the sworn staff a hang tag. And they said, you're allowed to park in these streets, and this is where you can park. And essentially, they had an opportunity to grow their parking infrastructure with just printing hang tags and distributing them. Well, we don't have that luxury in the county. We don't own those city parking spots. And so I think that this solution, to your point, I do think we need a comprehensive solution, not only for my staff, but for probably the growing number of people that may be working down here for county government.
Well, thank you. And, if we can help you get to that comprehensive solution, please call on us, because I think it's real important. And there's kind of a timeline on this thing, because this campus is going to expand quickly, and those new areas are going to require security, and all these things that we're talking about are interconnected. So please reach out.
Well, and I'll leave it on this. This is a conversation that really came to our attention over the last few weeks. Had we had advance notice of this, we probably would have built something into our target letter to account for parking. That's not where we are right now, but we do feel an obligation to start this conversation with you and with other leaders in county government.
30 seconds.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one here, I see a hand online. Is that referring to this? Luis?
The parking?
Yeah, is
Parking?
the hand for this?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I want to
I think you went mute again.
Yeah. You're mute.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Suggested property would be 1818 Leavenworth Street, which is the Advantage Point property. It's on the west side of Corrections. On the west side of corrections, there's parking all the way up the street northwardly. I think that is a place you can put a lot of parking. I don't know the exact access and entries and exits of corrections. I haven't visited it yet, corrections. But it's right next to corrections. If the county purchase it, it could be subsumed into the complex there. So that's one point. Hopefully that's a solution. And I hope you find a solution, because I don't want parking to be an excuse as to why you can't have a combined facility for mental health. This seems kind of suspect that you'd bring up parking now when the county commissioners have been talking about commingling or having a combined mental health complex probably since December, or the idea popped up in December. So I don't know if this is like an 11th hour attempt to prevent a commingling for mental health facilities. I think that's very important that you do that. Parking issues are across the board for Omaha in other industries. And with all due respect to the sheriff, just because you have a parking issue doesn't mean that it has to be resolved right away. A lot of times when parking issues come up in Omaha, it takes time. But looking at that area, there's a big empty parking lot there at 1818 Leavenworth, right next to corrections. And one last point, for my participation, I think I need to talk to Karen about coming into Zoom, because it seems like every time I get on Zoom, the microphone isn't muted or something like that, and I'm disrupting. I don't want to do that. So I'll talk to Karen or somebody that knows about Zoom. But those are my thoughts. There is space there at near corrections that you can use to facilitate the county sheriff's operations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Larry, you got someone on this item?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. I guess I'm considered a proponent. But I'd like to say that I know you folks are busy, but you just don't look at the big picture. Our deputies and our sheriff cannot say what they really want to say because they work for you. They have to be careful for their jobs. But I do not work for you. As a matter of fact, you work for me. You work for the citizens. And the big picture here is the citizens have told you time and time and time again that you have property out there on 42nd Center Street. You have a social services shopping center right out there. We don't need to make it convenient for convicted people, even youth, to be able to bring their parents and friends and relatives down here for their trials or for their social services that you guys spend money on. The best practices are filling up the parking lots so sheriff's deputies can't park. I don't get it. Please look at the big picture for a change. Support your employees, the Douglas County sheriffs. Let the city trolleys and mega buses and overhead trolleys, whatever you want to call them, transport friends, relatives, and judges, lawyers from the parking lot right across the street to 1818, whatever it is. You filled up spaces with people for programs or judges. You got to stop doing that. Let them bring the buses. Support the sheriffs with space to park for them. And support your citizens because you do work for us. the justice programs and the feel-good programs, the best practices from national organizations. And I know Mary Ann goes to National Association of County Governments and listens to them. And there was a presentation by one of those people here last year. They suggest to you what you should do at state legislature and what you should do here with your things. You listen more to them than you do to us. That needs to stop also. Let the citizens weigh in on this. Let the citizens park. If they have to, they'll take the bus. They'll take the city trolley or the tram. We don't expect the sheriff's deputies to. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move to item 7, committee. Oh, you better come to me.
I just want to make a comment, that's all.
Well, on this item,
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes.
please, you better, yeah.
My name is Frank Bailey.
You want to get said on the mic?
My name is Frank Bailey, 6912 Florence Boulevard, Omaha, Nebraska, 68112. My background's therapy, trauma, work with high-risk populations, at the France House and various places. I work at my own private practice at 42nd and Center, and I believe we should support these individuals because I've been out of the courthouse a lot of times, and I've seen crazy things happen inside courthouses when things happen. I'm glad to see these guys running in the room. And the whole thing I wanted to say when it comes down to like mental health and individuals are in corrections, the best practice is a one-stop shop. That's the whole thing. When you talk about things being together, when individuals have to go here, there, and all over the place, due to their mental health issues and trauma, usually they can't make it there. When you talk about facility being by corrections, it's vastly important. You know, that's the whole thing. And as far as the parking issue, these gentlemen do need your support. You know, to me, when you're talking about like shooters and people that are just dangerous, they're rampant here in Omaha. So I didn't even know sheriffs were walking down here from the jail up to here. To me, that's the most insane thing I've heard of. Because you could take somebody that knows that somebody could have an issue with them, could do something to the car, could do something to them. I was even thinking they could like look at their license plate and find out where they live at. So to me, this is a concern. So I'm saying, mine, I hope you find it pretty soon because they also need to be safe.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll go to item 7, committee discussion and action. Item A is the finance report. Item 1 is the budget report. I'm assuming that's as presented?
Yes.
Okay. With that, we'll go down to item G, which is human resources. The item 1 is the weekly personnel report from civil service as presented. Item 2 is legislative issues. There are none that I know of. I think we should just probably note the budget will be out this week, so we'll know where things start lying in that respect. And if there's nothing else legislatively, you do have need for an executive session for the purpose of litigation and legal advice. Am I missing anything? Litigation and legal advice.
Did Larry have a comment on legislation? I apologize.
You got a legislative comment?
I'd like to comment under the topic of personnel, human resources.
Come on.
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. You may call me out of order on this, but I take offense to Mr. Luis or Mayor Jimenez calling in on Zoom and giving you a new program for the parking solution.
I'm gonna stop you there, because that was a parking matter. If your comments on personnel, if it's on Louise, I'm
Okay,
gonna stop you. If it's
you have on the agenda health, human resources,
Yeah.
okay? I'd like to ask a question. It appears to me, by the way Mr. Jimenez acts in this room and now on Zoom, that he maybe works for you folks.
He does not.
Or he's one of these community reporters called a documenter.
No,
Because he sure has a lot of orders for you guys to follow.
Well, I can confirm.
I
he's not
suggest
a-
that you ask him if he is a reporter, if he is writing as an independent or a,
Thank you,
know,
Mayor. He's not a county employee. Thank you.
and you call him Mister, or you call him by his first name.
He's not
It
a
sure
county
seems
employee.
like maybe he's working or in consort with you, so
Thank you.
I'd like to see him tamper that down a little bit.
Thank you. For the record, Luis is not a county employee. Again, there's a need for executive session for litigation and legal advice. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Motion by Commissioner Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Friend. And again, we're going to executive session for litigation and legal advice. Before people leave, we won't take action going back. Just know for the record, today at 1 p.m. On the 9th floor, there is a Criminal Justice Committee meeting at 1 p.m. in room 903. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0. Motion by Commissioner Boyle, second by Commissioner Garcia to reconvene and adjourn. Motion passes 4-0. We're adjourned at 9:58 a.m.